Cam Ward, number 1 overall. Where will Travis Hunter end up? And so much more.
Eric, this is a Sun show.
Oh. Sickos unite for another edition of PHNX Sounds, coming to you live on a Thursday, aka we're going to be calling Tears Day. I'm Erik, that's Stephen, Gerald over here as well. We got Kevo behind the Mac again, making all of the magic happen. We have a jam-packed show. We're going to be tiering reasons the Suns are and are not still a top-tier destination for free agents in the NBA. We'll talk a little playoff ball at the end, and we're going to clear up some things as far as the Bob Myers reporting goes. Before we get too deep into that, I want y'all to buckle in, grab a snack. It is a Circle K day, 40 cents off per gallon. Drop a comment, leave a like. How are we feeling, boys?
Feeling good. Feeling great.
That's it?
That's all I got for you.
You big NFL draft guy, Gerald?
Honestly, not really. Like I'm a Steelers fan, so I'll pay attention to who they draft. But outside of that, I'm not a big. It's too long for me.
What about you, Steven?
About what?
The NFL draft.
Yes
well, or no?
There was two questions. It was how are you and how are you an NFL draft guy? So I'm like,
then you could have just gone with both.
One at a time, please.
The draft doesn't really move me. The Ravens have been a playoff level team for quite some time, so draft picks haven't been.
Must be nice.
Draft picks haven't been that much of a needle mover for me. They've done a good job recently, but I'm curious if Mark Andrews is still wearing purple and black by the end of tonight.
I love the NFL draft because I love hearing all the terrible things that have happened to people in their life. It's really my favorite part about sports media is just all the sob stories and all the terrible things that have happened to people's families that they have to bring up for some reason.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on from that.
Are you a draft?
No. I just need to know where my boy Cam Scadaboo's going. That's really it. But
Probably
we are not here.
In the AFC North. Makes entirely too much sense.
We are not here to talk about Cam Scadaboo, despite how much I would like to do that. We're here to talk about your Phoenix Suns and so much more. Obviously, yesterday we did a whole show based around Mark Stein reporting in his Substack that the Suns have, quote, strong interest in Bob Myers, former Warriors executive, now ESPN analyst. And then there were some conflicting reports that went out throughout the day. Gerald will have some things to say to clear stuff up on PHNX Suns end. But before that, Gerald, let's kind of lay out how we got here.
Yeah, absolutely. So it started with a Mark Stein report that there was a strong interest in Bob Myers on the Suns end. And then we got Dwayne Rankin today, or was it yesterday today, also reporting Phoenix Suns owner Mat Ishbia has been pushing hard to land former Warriors GM Bob Myers, sources say. Gambo was asked about it, John Gambadoro, who is obviously very locked in as well. And he basically shot those down. He said, you guys worked me too hard. No, not true in regards to
classic
that
Gambo
interest there. So we've got some conflicting reports. We've got Mark Stein and Dwayne Rankin on one side. We've got Gambo on the other side saying there's no interest. I can clear up a little bit of that. According to a source that I spoke with, Bob Myers and a few other reputable GMs are interested in a potential job with the Suns in the front office. Contrary to popular belief and the way it feels for the fan base after this team failed to meet expectations, just went through the most disappointing season in franchise history, this is still an attractive job to outside candidates. Now, the question is, will the two sides be able to come to an agreement? Because that's something different entirely. And how hard would the Suns actually pursue him? Obviously, Myers is based out of LA. He's a big family guy. His family is in LA. So would he be willing to uproot and come to Phoenix and devote, 100% of his time to being here in Phoenix, being boots on the ground and doing the job the way that the Suns would probably want him to do it? Or would Phoenix be comfortable with him kind of doing like a 70-30 split type of thing where he's not, in Phoenix all the time. I don't know that would be the case. I think you heard Mat Ishbia at exit interviews talk a lot about establishing an identity, and it's hard to envision them going with a candidate like that if he's not going to be here all the time. That's just kind of me speculating, but those are the questions that could determine whether a Suns Bob Myers union comes to fruition. I wouldn't be surprised if the Suns do go in a different direction, maybe with a lesser known up and coming exec who kind of aligns with their vision for the future as they try to establish an identity like we talked about. But there is interest on Myers' end of things for sure. And as far as the James Jones of it all, because obviously we're talking about outside candidates, James Jones is still the GM, but as we've been reporting here and been talking about on the show, his contract expires, and it's feeling, based on what I've heard from a few sources behind the scenes, it's feeling more likely that he is either going to be allowed to walk once his contract expires, or he's going to be moved into more of an advisory role. Josh Bartelstein, he is still the CEO, but he's probably going to be focused more on the business aspect as opposed to the basketball side of things with James Jones. Which would make sense if the Suns do bring in a new GM. So nothing is set in stone yet. They're still making these decisions. They've got time, but for the time being, they're going to be focused on making these front office changes as they see fit before they move on to hire a new coach, which also makes sense because a lot of the candidates are assistants that are currently on teams that are in the playoffs.
How do you feel about all that? Would you, Stephen, be interested in Bob Myers if he was half in LA, half here, or 70-30, like if he split time but still wanted to devote some of his services here?
Nope. Not at all. Because this is not even disrespect to him, but you can't say that you want this tone, this new tone to be set and, you know, things to align with that. And then one of the decision makers, someone that's going to be held very highly in regard, and how you're going to be leaning on him for his services, to not be boots on ground and putting in that same type of sweat equity in respect to his position on a daily basis with everybody else. You can't get that portion of it if someone's 7 toes in and 3 toes out.
What does that even look like?
It looks like someone that's supposed to be in the front office role that's in a different city than everybody else.
Yeah.
Looks like some frog feet that won't
I'm about to say. I don't know if I read probably Shaq feet.
Yeah.
So that gets everybody. Okay.
Oh, wow.
I did warn everybody that I was on one before.
You didn't warn the chat though.
I did not warn the chat. If you are a PHNX Sun Devils listener, you know I'm on one. Chris says, should we expect Ishbia to also be located in Phoenix? I think that's a little bit different because he's not making day-to-day decisions when it comes to the actual basketball side of things. He's taking more of a big picture perspective, and he does need to run his other business in order for the Suns to be able to spend money. Ted says LA is an hour commute from Phoenix, but
I'm about to say, I'm new out here. Ain't that 5.5?
a drive. Private jet,
Yeah,
probably
different.
like 45 minutes, 50 minutes. Yeah, so it's a little different when you have a
I was about to say, Chicago to Milwaukee is an hour and a half. This ain't the same distance as driving from LA to Phoenix, but that's me speaking.
And I said this yesterday because I also didn't want Bob Myers if Bob Myers wasn't getting the keys to the place where, you can come in, but you're splitting duties 50-50 with James Jones or with another candidate or whatever that is. I don't want that. But I wonder if there would be a consideration for him to maybe be in like a lesser role, maybe a consultant role, if the Suns do go with a smaller name, lesser known GM, and maybe in a non-public setting, Bob Myers becomes like an advisor or something. He still gets to spend time doing ESPN analyst work, living out of LA, being with his family, but having some sort of fingerprints on this organization, since it seems like there is some mutual interest between the two. Maybe it doesn't happen, and that's why Gambo felt comfortable reporting that. Obviously, we're not going to know until more plays out. Do we have any other thoughts on Bob Myers in general before we start getting to tiering reasons why the Suns are or maybe are not a top-tier destination in the NBA for players?
Yeah, just that I think Bob Myers, obviously his track record, what he was able to achieve with the Warriors is outstanding, and it's the kind of thing that you would want in Phoenix. But I do also think that, to Stephen's point, if he's not going to be here full time, if he can't devote, the full resources, time, and attention to turning this thing around, then maybe you are better off going in a different direction with someone who aligns and believes in your vision rather than, bringing in their own set of beliefs and their own vision and what worked for them in the past. Because like we've touched on, Bob Myers has made some amazing moves. He has also had some misfires, just like every GM in the league pretty much. So I think for the Suns, if you do go in a different direction, it's not the end of the world. It's not like you failed. I do think Bob Myers has interest in here. The question is, how much will the Suns pursue him? And to your point, like there does, based on everything that I've heard, there does seem to be a good relationship between those two sides. So even if he doesn't get hired full-time as the GM, maybe there is some sort of advisory role or something like that. I don't know, but there does seem to be an interest from Bob Myers in coming here, which is good news because that's the most high-profile name on the market. And if someone like that wants to come to Phoenix, maybe this job opening or this organization is not as far gone as it feels like when you miss the playoffs this year.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I was going to get to. If he's interested in any capacity, then that means that no one should feel above it because he's been as good as it gets for the last 12 years or so, even though he's been removed for about 3 seasons now. So that should bode well for the Suns, and that sets the tone for the conversations that we'll be having on today's show. So as I lob it off the backboard again.
I'm going to catch it. I'm going to come down with it like non-prime LeBron. Like LeBron on the fast break for the Lakers. I'm going to come down with it. I'll go up with it in a second. I want to take a second and
this man just compared himself to non-prime LeBron.
At least it wasn't prime LeBron. At least it wasn't. Again, I'm on one today. I want to thank all the psychos and sickos in the chat. Hit that like button while you're here. We know it's a busy NFL draft day. Somebody in the chat says no to the answer to our title, which is, are the Phoenix Suns still a top-tier destination in the NBA? We're going to be answering that ourselves in a second, but I want to remind everybody that we do have a Die Hard sale still going on today. $36 is an intro offer for Die Hards. Become a Die Hard today. You get 20% off all events, including if you were going to come out to our Cardinals draft party tonight, you get a 20% discount on that ticket, which I believe there is still time for you to sign up and do that, but it is getting pretty late for that. But we'll have plenty of other events over the summer. You also get a free t-shirt or a hat, access to our Die Hard Discord, exclusive video and written content, plus an ad-free experience on our website as well. Plus, this morning, Stephen and I jumped on a private live stream for Die Hards only, did over an hour of unfiltered, commercial-free playoff basketball talk. So we dove into the nitty-gritty on every single series, related a lot of that back to the Suns, talked about what if the Suns were in the playoffs, what would that look like? A little hint there, not great. But
Rudy Gobert.
Yeah. Tomorrow on For Die Hards Only, I'm doing a 3-hour deep dive on the greatness of Rudy Gobert. So stay on the lookout for that. Might turn that into an article, a short. Maybe we can brand our podcast on why Rudy Gobert would save the Phoenix Suns. But
Die Hard documentary.
Die Hard document, that I think with all of the resources that we're putting towards the NFL draft and everything going on right now, I would love to ask a producer to produce a Rudy Gobert documentary for me on short notice.
I don't have enough to do, so I'll do it. I'll do it
perfect,
tonight,
Kevin.
Yeah. PHNX glaze.
Ashley says, no glaze Thursday. LOL, leave Rudy alone. You know what, man? I should have just not done it because I said it before. I was like, this feels bad. Like, this doesn't feel good, but I'm going to play devil's advocate and I'm going to defend it a little bit. And now I'm known as the Rudy Gobert Glazer.
Right. That's your identity now. Just like
I've
Steven.
had worse.
I mean, this is what happens when you give Steven nicknames that he hasn't earned. Like it comes back. It comes back around.
One thing about Karma when you messing with me.
I haven't called him cutesy legs
One thing
in
about
a
Karma
month.
when you messing with me.
It's the last time that I've called you cutesy legs. Oh, Eric Rudy works too well. No! You know what? Before we get too far down this, we'll be back with a tier and so much more right after our first break. Am I going to keep the nickname Eric Rudy? I'd bet on it. And maybe you could bet on it over at Bet365 because whatever the moment, it's never ordinary. Maybe you want to put together some picks for the NFL draft tonight. You still have time to do that. Maybe some NBA playoff picks as well. Listen to Stephen and I's podcast if you're a diehard. Take some of our predictions and turn that into some cash. The most important part is that you do it over at Bet365. Bet365. You can take it from me, the guy who ended up positive in our Bet365 betting competition. I don't know if you knew that, Stephen. I don't think I've brought it up yet. Breaking news from Bet365. New customers now get $150 in bonus bets when you place a bet that's $5, win or lose. All you gotta do is sign up, use code PHNX365, deposit 10, place a bet for $5, get $150 in bonus bets whether your bet wins or loses. That bonus bet can be used on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary. At Bet365, you must be 21 plus and physically located in Arizona. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, text NEXT-STEP to 53342, or visit problemgambling.az.gov. Plus, it is playoff season, and if you do not live in Phoenix, well, you're probably living near some playoff basketball, or you can hop on your private jet with Bob Myers, head out to LA and watch some playoff basketball out there. All you gotta do is save some money, buy your tickets with Game Time. But maybe you want to get away from basketball because you just can't stand it anymore. Well, go to a concert, go to a comedy show, go to theater, whatever you can buy a ticket for, you can get those tickets on Game Time, and you can find them in the best possible way with Game Time picks. Filter out the fluff, find the best deals from the best seats, get the view, get all-inclusive pricing, and a price match guarantee. If you find cheaper tickets, they will refund you the difference 110%. But I tried to do that because I like money and I wanted to make some money, and I couldn't because I couldn't find a cheaper ticket than Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create an account, redeem code PHNX for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed.
Kevin, what time is it?
Game time.
Okay.
Good stuff.
Are you ready for a tier?
Let's do it.
Let's have fun with a tier.
One single tier?
Yeah, just one tier for the Phoenix Suns. But we have a lot of people who are jumping in the chat here saying, there's no way anybody would want to play for the Phoenix Suns. Ew, grody, the Suns? Yuck. And while I understand that perspective, and I felt that way during the season, I'll be honest with you, I think that people pretending like the Suns don't have any chance of bouncing back or attracting free agents or a GM or a head coach, I think it's kind of stupid. But we're going to attack it from all perspectives here. We're not just going to be tiering the best. We're also going to be tiering the worst things about what makes the Phoenix Suns an attractive top-tier free agent destination here. So I'm going to list off some of the options for you because I don't believe you're going to be able to see it on screen. You're just going to be able to see our tiers. But the tier items that we have include Devin Booker, Mat Ishbia, the front office, living in Phoenix, fan support, facilities, being in the Western Conference, the head coach or lack thereof, warm weather, missing the playoffs this season, looming changes, expectations, and league spotlight. Now, that's a lot. We'll go through that one by one, and we'll put them into these 6 categories. Huge attraction, big positive, helpful, neutral, slight concern, and big negative.
All right.
S. Campbell says, saw the title and clicked on this. The short answer is yes, for any overrated schmuck that wants to get paid.
Damn. I mean,
stick around, S.
As long as they agree that it's still an attractive destination.
So let's start with Devin Booker.
Okay.
Because Devin Booker, in my mind, might be the very top of this list.
So I think in years past, I would agree. And I still think he's at minimum big positive because you look at the star talent that the Suns have been able to attract, Chris Paul, Kevin Durant, obviously Bradley Beal didn't work out, but these are all guys that have been multiple time All-Stars. And in Chris Paul and KD's case, certified Hall of Famers, all-time greats who wanted to come here and play with Devin Booker. You saw the way that people on the Olympic team in Paris respond to Book. Like, I know that he had a bad season. I know if you put your fan cap on, and this applies to a lot of these things, if you put your fan cap on, this was a horrendous season. No one will ever want to mess with the Suns ever again because they're down so bad. But there's a lot that goes into choosing a destination in the NBA and a place being a destination in the NBA than just on-court results for the past season. So as much as Book had a bad season, he's at least still a big positive to me, because he is a guy that a lot of stars around the league respect his game, and want to play with because he is an adaptable player and a chill personality as well.
I think I would say he's a huge attraction just because He is the franchise face. He's one of the longest tenured Suns in history. And I think that loyalty and knowing that he isn't even like contemplating or entertaining the thought of being elsewhere, and he's publicly communicated that, and he's putting ink to paper, likely going to be putting ink to paper like we reported last week. I just feel like if someone's looking for a stable situation that might be coming from something that's been a little bit more volatile or had less organization, being able to see that, okay, the best player or one of the best players at worst is going to be there for sure. If I sign a contract that matches that length or is close to that, I'll know at least there's going to be one consistent factor with that.
I would put him in huge attraction. I just think that this guy has played on the biggest stage, like Team USA, in the Olympics. Players love him too. Players have loved him before the media loved him nationally. And there's a reason why big time players would want to come here. And I think there's a reason why even like vet minimum free agents would want to come here. And I get that Kevin Durant's a big part of that. But I think Devin Booker as well. And for those who are out on him, I would go have you argue with all the NBA players. I know that would never happen, but they would tell you that you're wrong.
No, one last thing with that. It's cool. Like, it's really awesome to be liked. But what always trumps that, especially when you start getting to these small percentiles of an entire existence of humans being good at something or great at something, it's the respect component.
Yeah.
And guys respect Devin Booker. They might not always like him. Like Paul George, we know Paul George doesn't like him for whatever reasons, plural.
Podcast P.
But you better believe he respects him. And I think that goes even further than, you know, this guy's cool and whatnot. Do you actually respect him?
Right.
Do you respect the work ethic and, you know, the growth that's been shown, the loyalty, all of those things? I think that probably trumps anything else, to be honest.
Yeah. I agree. And this isn't just for this year, too. Like, this is for free agents the next couple of years. Right. They can bet on Devin Booker being here as well. Let's move on to expectations. This is a tricky one.
Yeah, because it depends on how we're framing this. Are we framing this as the expectations they had coming into the season and falling short, or are we just framing it as this team, this fan base, everybody involved has expectations moving forward? I'm assuming that's what
I think it's. I think it's for moving forward when the free agent is here. Okay. You know, I think the expectations are relatively low for this team, especially if they make a KD trade, if they get Bradley Beal off of the team. I would say overall fans would not expect a good season next year. I think they would expect a better season, maybe good, but not great. Nobody has championship level expectations. For me, I would probably put this in neutral.
Okay.
I don't know if this is going to have as big of an impact this season as it would before.
Yeah, I think heading into next season, the expectations are going to be lowered, but I think the expectation is still that this is a playoff team. Maybe not a championship team, but I do think the expectations, if you look at the last few guys that they've been able to get out here on contracts that are probably worth less than they could have gotten elsewhere. Again, it doesn't matter how those guys panned out. It's the sheer fact of, are you getting players to agree to come here for less than they could make elsewhere, which is what you're going to have to do given their cap situation. I think the expectations are probably helpful. That's where I would put them.
Yeah, the framing for me with expectations was that they're going to be looking to be back in the playoffs, not the play-in, but the playoffs.
Right.
Might not necessarily be contending, but that sweet spot between not being a team that's borderline play-in and not making it ultimately, and obviously not being the team that contends, especially if they end up trading KD. So I feel like the expectations are being a playoff team, especially coming off of a season where you were underwhelming. Anybody that's a dog is going to want to be a part of that change. And I think that could and should be an attraction piece for them.
Brent says, for players, I think they see an opportunity to help improve the team after completely failing, which would boost their personal stock. And I do think that expectations is a lot of it just like be a fun team, be a good team, right? Like, let's enjoy watching you play. And if you're a player walking into championship or bust and walking into be a fun competitive team are two very different things. Where do we land? Maybe just helpful?
Yeah, I'd put it in helpful, because I do think if you look at the guys that have come here recently, they've wanted to play for this team because they had expectations for what the season would be. And again, those expectations are going to be very different heading into next season, especially depending on what they do with Kevin Durant, with Bradley Beal, the head coach, all of these things that are coming up. But I do think there will still be a base level expectation. We're not rebuilding. Like, we're retooling, but we're still going to be more competitive. And if they do fall in line with that identity of being gritty and defensive minded, then no matter who's on this team, there's going to be an expectation of making the playoffs.
I agree.
Yeah.
Let's keep it rolling. Facilities. This one feels easy to me, so I will step back and hear your guys' thoughts.
Yeah, it's at least a big positive for me. I think obviously upgrading the arena in recent years, then the practice facility being borderline state of the art. Obviously, some new ones have been upgraded since then, but just the continual commitment to pour money into things that are quality of life adjustments that do matter to these players on a day-to-day basis. It's at least a big positive for me.
Yeah, no less than a big positive. It probably is more of a huge attraction than anything, but no less than big positive for me.
I think that there's not going to be a lot of huge attraction. I think I may be looking at one more thing beyond this that could slide in there. Big positive as a floor for me. I could hear that players care more about money. Players care more about what the team is going to look like, or we'll have one later, which is Phoenix living, the place that you're actually in. They might care more about that. But if you are taking less money to be here, or if you are taking a chance and saying, I could have gotten a vet minimum from a way more quote unquote stable franchise than this one, I need to see something and go, hey, I can feel comfortable there. And the facilities, the training staff, the chefs that they have for people, the way that they take care of players here, I do believe is part of the reason why we saw a couple players vote for the Suns to be the best organization. Now, not a lot, 1.5%, but not on the list of worst. And I do think that that is part of it. I'm fine putting it in big positive for now.
Yeah.
Because both of you are more in there. I think huge attraction is on the table, and it might move up later.
I think you would need like a brand new practice facility, because as much as this facility is newer, it still could be fleshed out a little bit more. And I don't think, as much as I think guys will take a tour of a facility and be like, wow, this is really awesome, I don't think it's like to the level of huge attraction where they're like, well, I got to go there because I got a spa in the back. You know what I mean?
No, I think that's completely fair. I think it helps as a tiebreaker. So I think big positive is good for me. So right now we have Devin Booker in huge attraction. We have facilities in big positive, and we have expectations on the team next year as helpful. 3 positive things so far. Let's maybe go to one that could be considered a negative. Let's go ahead and jump to front office.
This, for me, I would put in slight concern, because I think, again, from a fan perspective, the front office would be a big negative because of the moves that they've misfired on over the last 2 years, the uncertainty that comes with the front office at this point in time. But for a player, if you're paying me my money, I don't care who your name is. I don't care what moves you've made. If you were paying me my money, I'm still I'm cool with that. So I think for me, just because they've misfired, because there's uncertainty in the air, I'd put it in slight concern. But I'm curious where you guys fall on this one.
Definitely below neutral.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a big negative simply, Stephen, because I think they're going to try to hire somebody new. And I don't know if I could put big negative, but that uncertainty and that change could lump it in there for some people.
Yeah, it's a slight concern for the points that Gerald made as far as it not affecting people's money, but also factoring in that it might affect the team's ability to top out in terms of potential, whether it be via free agent signings or trades after a roster has been established, or obviously making the correct choice on the head coach for the first time in quite some time. So there's some ambiguity there, but not having to worry about drama and, different things like that and what the team's direction is desired to be. I think that bit of clarity, in addition to the money part and Mat Ishbia not worrying about dollar signs, should bode well. So slight concern, I feel like, is most appropriate.
Yeah, I think slight concern. I think this might end up at the top of slight concern at the end of the day. I'm interested to see what the big negatives are when we get to it, but I'm definitely good with it being a slight concern at this point, I wouldn't blame people for saying big negative if nothing happens. If James Jones is retained or he's let walk and it's Bartelstein, whatever it is, we'll go from there. Tony's asking the like goal. Like goal is 125. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Stick with PHNX Sports. We're going to keep on tiering here on a nice, fun Tiers Day edition so far as the things that impact free agents' decisions to come to Phoenix. We have Devin Booker as a huge attraction. The facilities as a big positive. The expectations on the team going into next season is helpful, slightly. And the front office as a slight concern. Let's go to one that I'm interested also to hear your guys' takes on, which I guess is all of them. Fan support. Where the fan base's temperament is right now. Now, this is not me trying to say that anybody would be like, screw the fans suck, but more the overall fan experience when it comes to how they feel about the Phoenix Suns at this moment.
And this is no shade to anybody in our chat, because Lord knows if you guys are here in the offseason with us on NFL Draft Day to talk about Suns when there is not a whole lot going on, you are a diehard fan. You are the exact type of fan that Suns players should want to come and play for, and we appreciate all of you being here. But I'm leaning like neutral to slight concern, because it's not these people in the chat that I'm worried about. It's the atmosphere in the arena has not been the same since like 2021, 2022. It just hasn't been the same since kind of Luka Doncic stole everybody's souls and the ticket prices went up. And you're getting different types of fans in there now. And I will say, because everyone is so negative about the state of the team, I think that has bled over into the fan support that you feel in the arena. It's bled over into incidents where, you know, Bradley Beal's kids are crying because of what fans are screaming at their dad. That type of stuff does matter. And it matters when you go to a Suns Lakers game or a Suns Celtics game or a Suns Warriors game, and it feels like it's a 50-50 crowd. So I do feel like when the Suns are good, this is absolutely a Suns town. This is a fantastic fan base. Suns have always been first here. But when you have a season like this and the fan support, I mean, this has been the most disappointing season we've ever seen this team have. I do think that's either neutral or a slight negative. I don't know. What do you guys think?
It's a slight concern for me. No different than the front office. It was different in terms of how it's going to be tended to, but both is on a prove it basis at this point. Going into the next season, the front office has to prove that they're competent. Going into the next season, the players have to prove to the fans and get that buy-in back from them to start taking those steps to get back to what ultimately was 2021 and 2022 prior to the playoff exit that season. So there's a lot of proving involved, but because of all the things that's been going on, I think it's in the slight concern.
Tony says that my dad nailed it in the chat. Jeff in the chat says, a true fan is through thick and thin. Atmosphere was bad before. It will improve. I think it will improve if they win, but I think currently slight concern is okay. I think also a lot of the combativeness with fans, that, and I might get attacked for saying this, came with Katie.
Some of it did come with Katie.
Some of it is still here from before.
Some of it came with Beal. Some of it just came with this is the state of our world now, unfortunately, because people are just jerks online, cowering behind fake names and profile pics most of the time. But, you know, between the gambling and people being mad when a player messes up their parlay, between just the vitriol that's online in general, just the state of being a fan, it feels like every fan base feels a certain type of way when their team doesn't meet expectations and they can at players directly for it. Like it's a pretty combative place. So I don't think the Suns are just unique in that respect. But when you couple all of that with the most disappointing season in franchise history that began with expectations to contend for titles, you get kind of a combative place, and it can be toxic for sure.
Yeah, it definitely can be toxic. So we finally have a category with two things in it. That is slight concern. Front office and fan support. Are we okay with that order? Or do we want fan support ahead of front
I would
office?
put fan support, or wait, because behind is lower.
Behind is
right?
worse.
Yeah, no, I think that's
We're
where
good
it
with
should
that?
be, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. I also just think that, well, some of the expectations are helpful, as in they're not as high. If you do not exceed or meet those expectations this year, the fans are going to come at you. I would hear neutral, and I would understand why you would say neutral as well. Good If It Goes says that for fan support. Somebody asked, Rich Dog asked, what would you say are top tier destinations right now?
I'm trying to think. I mean, like, obviously the heavy hitters like LA, New York, Miami,
Boston.
Golden State, Boston, those are always going to be up there just because of the cities, the history, the fact that they're perennial playoff teams.
OKC, I think right now with how well run they are.
Yeah. OKC, I would probably say the Suns are in that mix as well because it hasn't like everybody thought that after they got swept, they weren't going to be able to attract anyone to play for them. So I don't know.
Brett in the chat says, if we got Gobert, where would he go on the list? Huge attraction. Oui, an Eiffel Tower level attraction. Sacre boom. Okay.
Goated glaze at the very top.
Oh,
where would you all say the Clippers would rank in terms of top destinations?
Clippers
new
are probably
arena.
Asking
up
because
there.
the new arena owner that's never been bashful about spending money.
Yeah.
Just thinking about that part of it.
Yeah, I would probably throw the Clippers in there now, especially with the way that they've competed this season.
Yeah.
Ty Lue, the new arena, all that. It's a combination of things because Maria asked top tier based on location, market, playoff potential, what? All of the above. Kind of all of, because some of these places that we named are based on like LA, is it's always going to be LA. Boston, the Celtics are contenders, despite, they put out a whole 9-part documentary about the history of Boston and how it was not always great to its own players. But like, if you were contending for championships, like it's a combination of all these different factors.
Yeah. Also, congratulations to Evan Mobley, your defensive player of the year for the 2024-25 season. Breaking news pod. Anybody? No?
That's okay. But I do think he got like a $45 million boost.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Contract for winning defensive player of the year.
Do you have a $45 million clause in your contract, Gerald?
I do not.
That is an exact example of why I keep saying that the people that are voting for these awards have to be held accountable.
Yeah.
Because there are significant portions of money that are unlocked or lost on based off of somebody not watching your games because you might not have played as many national TV games as the Boston Celtics did or the Cleveland Cavaliers did.
Right.
If you have the privilege of voting on league votes, please do the job diligently.
Take it seriously.
And to that point, I'm not mad at Evan Mobley winning it. I think
No.
his defense has been underrated for how key it's been for the Cavs. My personal vote would have went to Dyson Daniels, though.
I'm just glad it's not
a
Draymond.
better individual defensive season than what Dyson Daniels did for the Atlanta Hawks this season.
The Great Barrier Reef.
Yeah.
Thief.
Shout out to Ozzy. Yeah.
The Great Barrier
Shout
Thief.
out to Ozzy.
Yes.
Fantastic nickname.
I hear you on
KD, the
Draymond.
Great Barrier Reefer. There you go. Hey, how about that, yeah?
Wow.
No, I'm just really glad that it wasn't PR stunt Draymond. I think Dyson, yeah, if you were going to give it to a non-center any year, it should have been this year with Dyson. But I'm not mad at it with Evan. I feel like Dyson might have a chance if the Hawks are a better team
He ain't going nowhere.
next year. Yeah, he ain't going nowhere. We aren't going anywhere either. We're going to continue to break down our tier and maybe talk a little playoff hoops as a teaser for what Steven and I dove into earlier this morning for Diehards Only. And we're going to do it all right after our final break. If you are looking to sell your home, write this down. Bradley Beal, 480-776-5231. That's 480-776-5231. Of course, you know this by now because I've been saying it over and over again. That is the number to the Carol Royce team. Now, the best part is that Carol will sit down with you and talk to you about selling your home. And if it's not the right time for you to sell your home, she's going to tell you to your face, don't do it. Even though that's going to cost her money, even though she's not going to gain anything from it. She might spend an hour talking it out with you, and at the end of the day, she might just say to you, you know what? The best thing to do is to wait. But she also might look to you and say, hey, it's time to sell. And if it is time to sell, she'll guarantee to sell your home for 100% of the market value, or she'll pay you the difference. She'll get you up to 6 cash offers, including at least 1 at 100% market value, or again, she guarantees that she will pay you the difference. So call Carol today at 480-776-5231 if you're even considering selling your home, or visit Carol online at carolroysteam.com. Tell them PHNX sent you. That's carolroysteam.com. Terms and conditions do apply. Also, huge announcement from David Kimmerly, president of America's most awarded Ford dealership, Sanderson Ford. Ford just announced From America for America employee pricing. Now you pay what he pays on the full lineup of new Fords, and no hassle, no pressure, and no nonsense, and no added markups. Employee pricing levels the playing field for America Ford dealers, as everyone gets the same set price. However, other dealers will still add addendums and add-ons, and Sanderson Ford promises you they will not do that. Choose Sanderson because they have an inventory and a 70-year reputation of treating you, the customer, right. Ford is undeniably the most America-first automaker in the world. 80% of the vehicles Ford sells are assembled in factories located in America, and they will be less affected by those tariffs. Now's the best time to buy a new Ford with From America for America employee pricing. That excludes the 2025 Expedition, 2025 Super Duty, Raptors, Mustang, and Bronco specialty vehicles. Also, we do not have a Circle K ad read today, but I want to tell everybody as we bring it back in here on PHNX Suns, hit that like button. That just as a public service announcement, because we love Circle K here. It is Inner Circle Day at Circle K, and if you are a member of the Inner Circle, you can get 40 cents off per gallon. Run far, get lost. Thank you so much for being here. Your kind words, they really hit home, and you're the reason why we do stuff like this. So thank you all so much. We really appreciate it, especially you, Run Far, Get Lost, PHNX Suns #1 fan.
And make sure you stop by Circle K.
Yeah, make sure you stop by Circle K. All right, let's get back to our tier of why the Phoenix Suns maybe are or are not a top-tier destination for free agents. So far, under huge attraction, we have Devin Booker for big positive. We have facilities for helpful. We have expectations and slight concern. We have front office and fan support. And so far, empty, we have neutral and big negative. So maybe this one goes into big negative. Head coach.
I don't know. We don't have one. So
Isn't that a bad thing?
I think it's a slight concern because you don't have a head coach, but that coaching slot will obviously be filled before we get to free agent. At least I hope so. I would probably put it in slight concern just because it's vacant right now, and just because there's been a lack of stability over the last 2 or 3 years. But if you nail this hire and you get somebody that's attractive, suddenly that completely changes. So for now, it's a slight negative for me.
Is it worrying, though, that you're on now your 4th coach since Mat Ishbia took over, and you just don't know if you're going to have, Stephen, a solid system to go to?
Yeah, but I think those things, again, go back to the front office, which is why we put them where they're at. I think it's neutral because you don't know if it's going to help, but you also don't know if it's going to hurt. So naturally, by definition, not knowing if it's going to affect it positively or negatively, I think neutral is most fitting.
I think it's tough. I think that big negative is on the table. Obviously, if you guys aren't there, then we'll have to compromise. I know right now we don't know who it's going to be, but we also know that there's a big chance that it is an unknown, right? It is one of the more younger up-and-coming coaches, not somebody who's been established and won a championship. And I think that could be the right move. But if you're a free agent going into this offseason and you look at Phoenix, is the head coaching position something that you're getting excited about? I guess we just don't know. So I would lean slight concern over neutral. Around front office and fan support is interesting too. I don't know. I'll let you guys be kind of the tiebreaker on where it goes, either within slight concern or neutral.
I'd put it in between there because we do have a category coming up, looming changes. So for now, like the head coach is just kind of the head coach and we don't have one. I'd put it in between there.
All right, let's get to an easy one. Phoenix living.
This is...
Or Scottsdale living. Paradise Valley.
Well, see, Scottsdale living, I'd put it much lower than Phoenix living. But Phoenix living...
For NBA players?
For NBA players, yeah, I guess that's fair. For me personally, I'd change that order. But for Phoenix living, I would go big positive for me.
That might be a huge attraction, man. Cam Johnson did a podcast with Steve Nash for the Young Man the 3 today. He just bought a home in Phoenix. Players love it here.
They do.
Love it.
It's a great place. I don't think I'd put it on par with like LA or some of the other like big market top attractions, but it's not far off from that, I think. And especially when you have like an ambassador like Devin Booker constantly talking about how good it is to all these guys, I think that helps.
Yeah, it's not market-wise LA, New York, Chicago,
right,
Boston, but because of that, it's still great. I think it's a big positive. Only way it could be better is if it was one of the revenue-pushing cities of the entire nation.
I think above facilities.
Yeah, I agree.
I honestly assumed all of us would go huge attraction.
I mean, I love Phoenix.
Players love,
for sure.
Players
Phoenix too.
love
Awesome.
it here.
Very awesome.
Love it here. Literally retired players, current players for summer homes, players that have played here, players that haven't. So many of them are coming to Arizona. Ploxo in the chat says huge attraction. PHNX Suns.
Well, thank
That's right.
you.
Put us in the
Biggest
huge
attraction.
attraction.
Now he's the new #1 PHNX Suns fan.
There we go.
She.
You and what was the other one? It was like run fast, get lost or something like that. I think they ran fast and got lost out of here.
That's
For
fine.
those listening on audio, I was being sarcastic. They were big meanies to us. Okay, let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. I told you I'm on one today.
Uh-huh.
All right. Looming changes.
This for me,
I put it in big negative.
Yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty, and how they handle it could mean everything. The coach that they hire, the front office changes that they make, could completely shift perspective. It could be a whole new era, or it could be not enough done, or a bad hire. We don't know until those moves are made. But between that and just the fact that like a Kevin Durant trade could be coming, that could really hurt you perception wise. Bradley Beal, what they do with him, if they have to waive and stretch him, if they trade him, if he's still on the roster even, I would put it big negative.
Ambiguity with it always kind of lends me to thinking neutral, but if we're going off of what the reputation that's preceding it is, big negative is as apt as anything else.
Yeah, I have both in my head of neutral, big negative, slight concern. Conga in the chat says looming changes should be neutral. Good if it goes says it's the unknown. DT says no, Beal is the #1 negative. But I think Beal runs into the looming changes
He does.
part of it. I think if you're a free agent, the thing that's going to stop you from signing with the Suns immediately is if they don't have their identity figured out.
Yes.
Right. And if you are a veteran who's going to be playing on a veteran minimum, and maybe you do think that Phoenix is going to go and try to compete for a championship, or Kevin Durant's going to stay, or maybe you're a guard and you don't want to be in a rotation with Devin Booker and Bradley Beal. But if it's just Devin Booker, then that changes a lot. I think it's a big negative when it comes to attracting players, because players like stability, and all the things that we put in the positives are things that represent stability. You move to Phoenix, you're probably buying a home that you're going to keep beyond your playing days here. You come to Phoenix, you're going to be playing with Devin Booker. We know that based off of him saying that and the front office saying that in reports and publicly, plus contract-wise as well. You come to Phoenix, you have the stability of the facilities and everything that they pour into the franchise and dedicating to being a top-tier franchise in that sense. So I think when it comes to what would be a big negative, Gerald, I think not having stability has to be the biggest one, and looming changes is the definition of that.
Well, yeah, and for me, the looming changes encompasses all of that uncertainty and the moves that still need to be made. And honestly, the biggest one, it's not even the head coaches or the front office. If you're a free agent looking at the Suns, being recruited there hits a lot different when it's Devin Booker and Kevin Durant instead of Devin Booker. Kevin Durant is being traded somewhere else. Like that's kind of my biggest thing, and why it's one of the biggest negatives, because how many times did we hear free agents talk about wanting to come here to be able to play with Book and KD? If you take half of the equation out, yes, Book is still a great recruiter, a guy that guys like to play with, but it's not quite the same if KD is going out the door.
Yeah, that's a big part of the mystique, the draw, is having both of those pillars and not just one. So
yeah,
one being in potential limbo kind of sways that a little bit.
Here's a fun one. Mat with 1 T, Ishbia.
This is going to have the biggest gap between what the fans think and what we're going to put it. Because
where would you put it?
I would put it in huge attraction.
Wow.
Because he's literally, guys have named him specifically as why they came here in terms of his recruitment. And I understand that fans are out on him and that they don't believe in what he's doing. They think he's over-involved, whatever. And I understand where you're coming from. But if we're looking at this from a player perspective, what owner are you going to want to play for more than the guy that is pouring money and throwing money at everything that he possibly can to win? Like, we can talk about how some of these moves have been short-sighted, but from a player perspective, if you're trying to get paid, or if you're a head coach trying to get paid for 1 year, even if you get fired and get paid out your whole contract, like, who in the NBA is doing that other than Mat Ishbia, or doing it more than Mat Ishbia?
Yep. For me, it's a huge attraction as well. An owner that's spending and hasn't, some people say it's haphazard. I see it as him going all in to find ways to win and win fast. As a player, again, that's the situation you want to be in versus having to wonder if your front office or your owner is penny pinching or cost cutting or doing any of those things that's going to be a competitive disadvantage for whatever your goal is in terms of the season. Also go back to last week when we were doling out blame for why the season was underwhelming. And right next to Kevin Durant in terms of how much stake to that I gave was Mat Ishbia. And for that same reason, I feel like he's a big reason there would be an attraction for people.
Wow Factor says Jimmy wanted Ishbia. The players love the owner. I understand people who would not want to go huge attraction. I'm fine with it being a huge attraction. I was kind of debating back or forth just because I do think that when it comes to the fan stuff, and there are some rightful concerns about the approach in building the team, but from a player's perspective, you're right. They would want to come here to have somebody like that who cares. And you've seen it here before with the disgraced former owner of the Suns who literally traded good players for cash, for money, because he was broke.
And that's not even all the behind the scenes horrendous stuff that came out in that reporting. So yeah, going from that guy to this is night and day in terms of making Phoenix and the Suns a more attractive destination. It's not a coincidence that around the time that these transitions started, you got guys like KD and all of these different free agents and trades, guys that wanted to come here. Even if they didn't work out, that still matters.
Eric called him a brokey.
I could call him a lot worse things, but I don't think I'm allowed to say those things on the show anymore, but trust me, I would.
You're a jerk and you're broke.
I don't like that guy.
Got $1 and no dream.
No. Unfortunately, he got lots of dollars.
Yeah.
I wish I could crush his dreams. I don't like that guy. All right. Put Mat Ishbia in the huge attraction right next to Devin Booker. Let's break this down. We have 4 more left, but right now in huge attraction, we have Devin Booker and Mat Ishbia. In big positive, we have Phoenix living and facilities. In helpful, we have expectations. Neutral, we have nothing, which is extremely fitting. Slight concern, front office, head coach, and fan support. That has the most in any category so far. And big negative, we have looming changes. So far, we have 5 things in somewhat positive categories, and we have 4 things in somewhat negative categories, and nothing in neutral.
Okay.
How do we feel about missing the playoffs this year?
Yeah, this is a slight concern for me. I think obviously if you are a free agent looking around the league, you are bearing in mind what they did last year and you're bearing in mind the trajectory that the team is on, obviously. But most of these guys that come here, if you ask them questions as newcomers about the team from last year, like, I don't know, man, I wasn't here. They don't pay attention to that degree. So I think it is a slight concern because obviously this was a super disappointing season, but I wouldn't go as far as big negative for this one.
I would say it's neutral, and my reasoning behind that is because there's clear change taking place. Being the person that was coaching is literally not even part of the equation right now.
Right.
And if he was still here, then it would be a big negative. 1,000%.
Yeah.
But the fact that they've strategically already removed that portion from it to let people that potential suitors know that we're going a different direction, I think it's neutral for now.
Yeah, I think neutral is where I'm leaning. If we want to go into slight concern, I'm okay with that as well. I think that the past is kind of the past. I don't think players wouldn't come here because they missed something this season, but I also understand that if you are on a team that had high expectations and they ended up being the laughingstock of the NBA with the highest payroll, you wouldn't want to be there. Are we okay with finally putting something in neutral?
I'm okay with that.
Okay, let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and put that in neutral. So we do have 3 things left when it comes to our tier. Make sure y'all hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed. Big day here on PHNX as well. We have a full Cardinals draft show live from Gila River Resorts and Casinos Wild Horse Pass later today. So make sure you tune in with that. And especially for those of you out there, make sure you post some tweets about what's going on out there. Very exciting stuff. So we have 3 things left: the league spotlight, warm weather, and being in the Western Conference. Let's start with the league spotlight. A lot of eyes on Phoenix this summer. Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, a new coach, a team that flamed out despite having the highest payroll in NBA history. Where do we put the league spotlight on this tier?
I don't know. I'm kind of in neutral on this because I feel like a lot of teams are in the league spotlight now, and obviously the Suns, I think being in the league spotlight is what helped attract certain guys to this destination, but it's also kind of a double-edged sword because when you do underperform and you are in the league spotlight, it hits a little bit different. But I am curious how you guys are kind of approaching this one in particular.
I would say a huge attraction because of the types of players and the mindset that Mat Ishbia has communicated that they're looking to bring into their team context going forward. And if you are cut from that cloth of players that he's speaking to, mentally, physically, your approach to work ethic, character-wise, if you're checking off those boxes, then it should be something that attracts you because of the opportunity, which I spoke to yesterday.
Huge attraction's a little bit of a leap for me. I don't hate it being positive. I was leaning neutral, but I get your point. I think the reason why it wouldn't be a huge attraction is also because what a lot of people are saying in the chat and here, which is feels like a lot of teams are in the league spotlight. Actually says any team that doesn't win a chip is in the spotlight. So I don't know if that's a huge selling point for Phoenix directly. I would be okay with going helpful. The end of helpful because you do have a stage. It's not like you're going to the Wizards or the Hornets or the Trailblazers. I would say helpful personally.
Yeah, because I do think guys that have come here recently and probably even this summer understand that Phoenix is a very different organization than it was under the last guy in terms of prestige and trying to be the best, even though they haven't on the court come close yet. So yeah, I think helpful's fair for that.
All right. Warm weather. Remember, the NBA season is not played during the summer, especially this season for the Suns.
I would go either big positive or huge attraction.
He said fall to spring.
For this year it is.
I think someone in the chat earlier, I can't remember if it was Brent or who, but said that Phoenix is great 9 months out of the year and the other 3 it's Chernobyl. The good news is the 3 months that it is unbearable is the NBA offseason usually.
Yeah,
so
especially this season for us.
I think it's at least a big positive for me.
Steven, you're new here. What is it? You're new to the weather.
Well, everybody's not coming from where I came from.
No, but perspective.
That's gonna put
that's
a
a
buffer
very
on
drastic difference in climate.
Yeah.
Correct. But for me and how freeing it's been for my allergies and things like that, it's a huge attraction.
Your allergies have gotten better out here?
Yes. I haven't had any issues with my allergies.
1,000%. 1,000%.
Oh,
I
allergies
have
kick
heard
my
that.
ass out here.
It's interesting because my wife is from Minnesota and she always has more allergies because of dust. But some people come here and say that it's not. It's a lot better out here. So
I'm
My
from St. Louis,
sinuses-
obviously, and there are a ton of flowers and stuff out there, and there are none of that out here. And I reacted really poorly to the pollen and the flowers, and so just less like foliage and such. Like I breathe so much easier.
Brett in the chat says we had 30-mile-per-hour winds the other day, and Steven was like, light breeze.
No, in fact, because that 30-mile-an-hour wind wasn't accompanied by a minus 25 wind chill.
yeah,
We playing a whole different ball game. I don't have a 6-layer North Face on.
yeah.
I'm chilling.
So huge attraction?
I could say
So
huge
above
attraction.
Phoenix living.
Yeah,
Are we kind of double dipping?
because I feel like Phoenix is more about the city itself, and the
Okay.
warm weather is just kind of the climate here.
Look at that. DT wants to retire in Phoenix.
Also, you could like the warm weather more than you like Metro Phoenix living,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fair.
and it's more likely that you're a
Okay, these
snowbird
guys are
than
not
otherwise.
living in Metro Phoenix.
Yeah,
I've
they're not.
lived in Phoenix for multiple. I've lived all over the state. These guys are not living in Phoenix, okay? These guys are living 20 minutes outside of Phoenix on a mountain. So
how dare you?
But they get to do a lot of other stuff around Phoenix.
They do.
Finally, this one is tough. Being in the Western Conference. Before we do this, I want to remind everybody who is watching on TV that the party always continues over at gophnx.com.
Neutral. There are 14 other teams in the NBA that are also in the Western Conference. So I think if you're an Eastern Conference guy and you're looking at the West, maybe you're less inclined to join this bloodbath. But some guys view it as like a challenge. They look forward to being in the West and being able to play these games where they matter night in and night out. And it's always so brutal. Nothing's guaranteed. So, yeah, I'd probably go neutral on this.
I think it might be a slight concern just because you have to play to a certain level. Otherwise, your season is going to be over early and expectations. And then a lot of the stuff that we ranked earlier starts to weigh on you versus being something that uplifts you. So I would imagine it's a slight concern. And that's just kind of where I'm going to stick with it for now.
So I think in your answer, you actually argued it for not being neutral. Why? Because the Eastern Conference is so weak. That there are a bunch of other teams in the West, but if you are a good player, you look at the Western Conference, you look at what's going on right now and the level of stars, it might be a slight concern versus in the East, you might have an easier path to a championship.
What Eastern Conference teams are scooping up the talent, though? Like, what free agents are going East instead of West? Like, the better cities are in the West. West is best. West Coast, best coast. Like, it's not deterring anybody.
90s rap now. What we doing?
It's not deterring anybody from coming out West.
Yeah.
Brett in the chat says this list turned out surprisingly positive. I think that was the point, right? Is to show people that there's like, it's not as doom and gloom as it seems. It's pretty evenly spread out. Are we okay with just Western Conference being the end of neutral?
That's cool with me.
Okay. That's fine with me as well.
Don't be running away from no smoke, though, if you coming out West, because it's 11, 12 teams deep, and you might miss the play-in. And it might be for legitimate reason and not injury.
Yeah. Okay. Here's our final tier on why the Suns are or are not still a top-tier destination for NBA free agents. Coming in at the top. Huge attraction. Number one overall was the first thing that we tiered. Devin Booker, then followed by Mat Ishbia and warm weather. Then big positives, Phoenix living and the facilities. Helpful, saying expectations, league spotlight. Neutral, missing the playoffs and the Western Conference. Slight concern, front office, head coach, and fan support. And big negative, looming changes.
Yeah, I think that's pretty sensible. Makes sense to me.
Yeah. Wow. A tier that we're not fighting over.
That's
How
nice.
fun. It is very nice. Real quick, we'll save the playoff talk. If you're a diehard, Steven and I dove into that for over an hour, uninterrupted, no commercials. So we will save that for another day. There was a video that Devin Booker put out on Twitter and Instagram, I believe, that was very heartwarming. Let's go ahead and take a look.
Hey, y'all. Get some? Yeah.
So we got these banana chips homemade. We got Gatorade, water, and
Do a Gatorade and some banana juice?
yeah, of course. What color Gatorade whenever you want.
I'll do orange. That's you guys.
Whoa! Thank you.
Lord.
Thank you so much. Cool car.
Thank you. Yep. I am.
I'm like your biggest fan.
My man. Give me some.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. You guys keep doing what you're doing. Have a good one.
Good, wholesome content that we need a little bit more of right now with the state of things. But that was really cool. And I think the money was going to an animal rescue for dogs, if I remember right. That's what they're raising money for. So that was cool, man.
You know, if I had a nickel for every time there was a lemonade stand related news story with the Phoenix Suns, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's definitely funny. Your thoughts on that, Steven?
It's always awesome to see that. I just always think about how many times that happens when the camera's not around.
Yes.
I imagine the way that Booker's been received and the way that he's gotten around the Phoenix area for all of the time he's been here, he's had multiple instances of that.
And that's why a lot of times when we come here in the chat or on Twitter, we talk about how negative it is and how toxic it is and people that want to trade Devin Booker and stuff. There's so much of this kind of thing that flies under the radar when we talk about these types of things in terms of Book's importance to Phoenix, all of these NBA players' importance to Phoenix, because a lot of times these echo chambers that we find ourselves online are not real life for a lot of younger fans who look up to these guys and who that interaction is something that kid will probably remember for the rest of his life.
Yep.
Well,
imagine that kid on draft night.
Yeah,
Devin Booker stopped by my lemonade stand,
right?
Or if it was the girl on WNBA draft night.
Yep.
Like, wow, a good fun story on draft instead of what you get in the NFL draft. Mat Ishbia in the chat says, Eric to me is like Ryan Dunn to him. You know what that says? You know what that says? That's somebody who's been in here who changed their name.
Oh, yeah?
Because they're new. He said holy glazing. Matt with 2 T's is relatively new. I need to know who Matt with 2 T's was before they changed to Matt with 2 T's.
Okay.
I'm on to you. All right. Just because Kevin made the graphic, I will keep everybody up to date on what happened in the playoffs last night. We're not going to break it down. Again, Stephen and I did over an hour on all of the series, West and Eastern Conference for diehards only. If you missed that, it's in our diehard Discord. You can go and find the link in there as well. But just real quick, scores from last night to keep you up to date. No, it's not, Ashley. Definitely not.
It's way too nice.
Rockets, not to say I called it, but I called it. Blew out the Warriors by 15 points, 109-94. Of course, the Jimmy Butler injury, the big story in that game. Jalen Green went off. That series tied 1-1 going back to Golden State. Cleveland and Boston both went up 2-0 in their respected series against the Heat and the Magic. Feels like those two teams at the bottom of the East just don't have enough against the top 2 seeds. As for tonight, Knicks and Pistons about to tip off as that series is tied 1-1. Back at Little Caesars Arena, OKC and Memphis at 6:30, and Denver and the Clippers at 7. So you can take a break and not watch the OKC and Memphis game, but the Denver LA game is on NBA TV and OKC Memphis is on TNT.
So dumb.
And that definitely needed to be flexed, but it didn't. But we'll be back tomorrow talking more Suns basketball, having some fun. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Watch the PHNX Cardinals draft show tonight. Become a diehard today. Our intro offer is just $36. And of course, read all of Gerald's work over on gophnx.com. Shout out to Kevin behind the Mac, making all the magic happen here on a Tears Day Thursday. You can follow him at Kevo Post. He also hosts our U of A show with our guy Damon Dog. You follow Steven at Steven PG3. That of course is Steven with a PH. You can follow Gerald at Gerald Bourget, but you're already doing that. And you can follow me at ERIKRUBY. And I promise I will not say the words Rudy Gobert tomorrow.
We all silly like the mayor.